Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Fast Football and Philosophy with me, Dr. Adam Foxon.
And me, Professor Jack Cunningham.
I think we're getting quite. I think we're right at this now, Jack. You could say that we're podmasters at it. Podmasters.
Is that a thing?
It is now. Today we're going to be looking at a French idea, and it's a Sartrean idea. It's bad faith, and we're going to be attempting to apply it to some of football's egomaniacs. One in particular, the one who talks about himself in the third person, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So, Jack, what can you tell us about what bad faith actually is?
Okay, yeah, so we're going to have to start off with Jean-Paul Sartre, who is a Parisian philosopher, and he is kind of like the quintessential 20th century intellectual. He hangs out on the West Bank of Paris. He's smoking his unfiltered cigarettes all day and drinking his black coffee and talking in the cafes. And he really becomes quite famous and quite kind of like a superstar in the philosophical world for this. If you ever see a picture of Jean-Paul Sartre, he's no pin-up, but apparently he had no shortage of admirers flying across the Atlantic and from further afield to spend some time with Jean-Paul Sartre. And he was a philosophical pin-up, the coolest of cool. And Paris was a very cool time. Always is. The left bank of Paris was described as the most intellectual area of the world in the 1960s and 70s, and this is his kingdom. Anyway, Jean-Paul Sartre, he's an existentialist, and he writes a book in 1943 called Being and Nothingness. And in that book, he describes this very famous passage, very, very nice passage, actually. A lot of people who have skim-read that book always have to read the waiter passage. And in the waiter passage, he's in a cafe and he's describing the movements of a waiter. And the waiter's movements are a little too precise, a little too rapid. And he describes this waiter as being a waiter, or at least actually pretending to be a waiter. His movements and the precision and the way of his demeanor, he's doing it. And he describes this as bad faith. It is a metaphor, really, for the existence of most people in the modern world. And bad faith is the waiter is pretending to be a waiter because the other choices, he's not a waiter. He isn't a waiter. He's multiple things. But he has to avoid those choices, so he hides in the fact that he's a waiter. He could be a lot of things. He could not get up in the morning. He could go
be a baker.
He could be a baker. He could express himself artistically.
He could be left-handed.
He could be left-handed. Well, not that far. He could be a lot of things, but he's pretending he can't be because he's a waiter, and it's more comfortable to do that. It's a steady wage. Perhaps if he wanted to be a writer or go and live in the country, things will be difficult for a while. It'd be uncomfortable. He wants to avoid all that. So he has bad faith, and the bad faith says, I am a waiter, that's who I am, and he's pretending to be a waiter to avoid all those wonderful possibilities. It is the opposite of living an authentic and liberated life. And that for Jean-Paul Sartre is mauvaise foi, bad faith, and most people live by it. And if you're an existentialist, you have to shake this off. No matter how scary the freedom will be, if you do so, you've got to go for it. Otherwise, your life will be a fake life. You'll be, as Holden Caulfield said in Catcher in the Rye, you'll be a phony all your life.
Phony.
Yeah, phony.
Fugazi.
Okay. Fugazi.
It sounds quite like almost sounds like a bit of a Platonic idea. He's kind of corresponding to waiterliness a bit too much, and that's kind of, he's allowing this idea of what he is to define absolutely everything about him.
Yeah, and it's comfortable, and we do that. So the existentialists say that existence precedes essence. Okay, now that when you look at that, that's quite complicated, but actually, when they explain it, it isn't. And you being is that you are born, right? You're not even Adam Foxon when you're born. You are born, and that is your existence. But now, as you're growing up, your family, your school, your neighborhood, the country you live in,
everything,
all will have these predefined definitions of you, and they'll say, no, Adam, you come from this area, you have to be this, and Adam, you can't do that. So you will be, your essence will be defined. Yeah. And you'll find yourself rewarded for that. So that if you are good at football, because you come from a working class background, your family, your brothers, your dad especially, will think, and you're fantastic, Adam. Now, what would happen if you happen to be really, really good at ballet? Would you have got the same rewards?
It's Billy Elliot.
It's Billy Elliot. So you probably would have said, I know I'm better at ballet than I am at football, but I'm going to concentrate on football because the rewards are greater. And this happens over and over and over again in your life. Your school will do it, your neighborhood will do it, your university will do it, your mates will do it. Yeah. And imagine saying to your mates, I'm really getting into my ballet, and you're down the pub at night. I'm sure they wouldn't, it wouldn't be horrendous with you, but you'll be getting hints there that they're not quite approving of this.
Yeah.
And if you've told them to come and see your performance on Saturday night, they'll be like, oh, Adam.
I invite them to my public lectures all the time, Jack, and they never turn up, do they?
They
never turn up. Of course they don't. In fact, I remember so I got my PhD, let's say it was on a Monday, right? I had a training session on the Wednesday, and we had this kind of relatively complicated drill, and I got it wrong twice. And someone just said, "Oh, here's Dr. Dickhead again." Do you know what I mean? Can't do a simple drill.
If you get a PhD, you can never make another mistake in your life. You got a PhD, but you can't make a cup of tea, can you? It's just appalling, isn't it? You can't put a foot wrong.
So that's really interesting, because actually, do you think that footballers then, do you think that they live in bad faith? Because I'm not entirely sure that I think so. There are certain footballers for sure, and actually lots of footballers are they are molded in certain ways, and very much so now. And actually, I think they lend a lot of credence to that themselves, because they want to build a brand. Because again, it's where all the rewards are, right? So now Ronaldo isn't really even Cristiano Ronaldo. He's CR7 in the same way that Lionel Messi isn't Lionel Messi anymore. He's LM10, and there's all this kind of stuff going on, and that's why when a football player scores a goal, that they don't let the euphoria just rush all over them. They have to make sure that they do their weird gang signs, and they make sure that they do or the throwing of the arrow, or whatever it might be. Like they have that their own proper celebration. Which always seems very kind of put together and created and artificial almost.
You see, what they become is the CEO of Lionel Messi. They're not Lionel Messi anymore. They're the CEO of this thing that is my Lionel Messi. And so it isn't quite what Sartre was talking about, but there's a definite relationship there with truth and authenticity. And I think that's absolutely a possibility.
And it's why so many people love it when people are authentically themselves. So, for instance, a relatively new kind of player, if you like, in Cole Palmer, he's quite a young lad. He's unbelievably frank in his interviews. So someone will ask him like a really detailed question, and he would say, I don't know, like he just seems like really unmedia trained. He's very much not. He's not a polished thing. He's not like he's just not like the complete package in terms of a brand. And that's a great thing for him. In fact, when it was Charlie Austin. Well, we had a player. So my team, Southampton, we had a player called Charlie Austin, and it was 2018, and we were playing against Watford, and we were robbed of a goal. Like he scored a great goal. And anyway, afterwards in the interview, obviously they managed to get Charlie Austin in, and they said, "Oh, can you explain kind of what happened in the goal?" And he goes off. Like he is ranting, he's raving, right? And he's saying, we were robbed in this and that and this and that, right? And it went viral because someone put over Park Life, and it just seems to gel really well. And it's unbelievable. So have a look for that if you haven't seen that. It's unbelievable. And it's like, and again, but it's like these authentic moments that live with people because they want to see a real person as opposed to someone pretending to be this thing that they're not.
Yeah, so that's where you always get that when you get like a young superstar. They've just scored the most amazing goal anyone has seen for ages, and you put a microphone in front of them, and they haven't learned yet, have they, to talk like a professional soldier and a member of the team, where they would say, no, it's not me, it's all the team. You know, they will be saying, oh man, that was so exciting, and we love that, don't we? Because that's not. And then they learn the bad faith. I think when they get older, and they tell all kinds of lies about how they think it was the whole team. And the support staff and everyone were really in their head. They're thinking, "Oh, I was good, wasn't I?"
I was very good. But you see, this is the thing as well: is that actually to kind of get to that point, I think they kind of flip the bad faith on its head because rather than kind of portraying themselves and putting themselves in a position which is much more comfortable, like I can live my life as a waiter because it means I don't have to kind of take the gamble on opening my own boulangerie. Like I don't have to do that. You know, that is the thing that I really want to do. But actually, I'm gonna stick to being a waiter, and I'm gonna do that perfectly because I know I can do that. I think footballers at the top of their game, they're obviously consistently trying to push themselves, and they always kind of fake it till they make it. It's kind of this. The brand image then takes over, and it's like I have to be this perfect thing, and I have to believe. And I think that lots of them do genuinely believe that they are the best, like kind of centre forward in the world, or they're the best centre midfielder in the world, or whatever it is. Because you kind of have to have that kind of inner desire, in a kind of inbuilt confidence to get to the very top.
Yeah, and this is where bad faith might actually not work. It might, there might be moments, especially in a career like that, where bad faith is quite a good thing. You know, you believe you're the best, even though you're not, and and you'll achieve your best.
Yeah,
you might not be the best, but you will achieve your best by saying, "I am the best."
And the best person, or the best example of that, is Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the guy who speaks by himself in the third person.
Very worrying.
Right? so Zlatan. So I was looking at. I was trying to find a few of his quotes, right? And ESPN, they collated some of his best singers, right? There was 36 of them in total.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna read out a few, right? And so Jack's never heard these before, and I kind of want to get your kind of honest reactions to them, right? Ahead of the 2014 World Cup qualifying playoffs, right? Zlatan said, "Only God knows who will go through." And the reporter says, "Well, it's hard to ask him. I'm asking you." And he says, "You're talking to God." When Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger offered him as a teenager a tryout to play Arsenal, who at the time were flying, they were really, really good, he said, "Zlatan doesn't do auditions."
Yeah, fantastic.
and his and this is him kind of embodying this idea of like kind of the perfect footballer. As he gets unveiled as a PSG manager when the Qataris kind of finally take over and they kind of start to inject loads of cash and they can finally afford someone of Zlatan's ilk, right? He says, we're currently looking for an apartment. If we don't find anything, then I'll probably just buy the hotel. What a dick.
Well, that's a super ego for you. He's got a certain amount of entitlement there, hasn't he? And anybody
that he thinks is justified.
Yeah. And you can see how that would work psychologically. That will make him play at his optimum. And if you're a Parisian waiter, bad faith mightn't work. But if you're a professional footballer, it might be in your toolkit. Yeah.
Even though Zlatan, he's won loads of league titles, all around Europe, he's done really, really well, scored loads and loads of goals. Everyone agrees that he's a very, very, very top world class player. Mm-hmm. And yet never won the Champions League. Even though he's got he's kind of top 10 of I think he's top 10 anyway of the top Champions League appearances.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite make any of the top teams that he's played for. He's played for all the top teams all around Europe. Could never quite get them over the line.
So those stats would kind of suggest strongly to a normal person that you might not be the best, or you might not even be as good as you think you are or want to be. But that's not. I'm not going to ever say that that's a bad thing. You
But
know.
lions don't compare themselves to humans, which is another one of his quotes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So if he lives in a world where the rules that everyone else is playing by and the judgments that they make based on those rules are human, and he's a lion, well, he can't afford to ignore them, can't he?
And still be a dick at the same time.
And still be a dick.
Oh dear. So is there any kind of sphere of football then in which bad faith might rather I mean it's good that it's a good thing for egomaniacs.
Yeah.
But is there a way that football and bad faith can kind of combine for actual good as opposed to just the good of the individual?
No. One of the things that's happened certainly in my lifetime is women's football exponentially growing and becoming better and better as the decades rolled on. And I think that is an absolutely beautiful illustration of shaking off bad faith. And I'll tell you a story about this. So I used to play football in the back garden of my cousin's house. And he had a mate playing with him. His mate had a sister who was a year younger than us, and she was fantastic at football. This is the early 1970s, right? She was great. We're playing in the park one...
Compared to you.
Well, compared to me. That has to be said. We're playing in the park one day, and she's standing watching, and we're playing against these other lads, and we bring her on because she's fantastic. She's better than any of us. She plays a terrible game, right? She plays a terrible game, and afterwards we tried to get, well, what was up with that? Every time we passed the ball to you, you just lost it, or you kicked it somewhere, and she wouldn't tell us. But you kind of worked it out later on, decades later. You're thinking, I know what happened there. I think I know what happened there. She had been told, even subliminally all her life, that girls don't play football and it's not attractive. And she didn't want to play football, be good at football in front of those other boys. It was all right when she's in the backyard with her brother and his two mates, but not in front of that audience. Yeah. She wasn't going to do it. So she pretended to be crap at football because
that's what girls are.
That's what girls are.
Apparently.
She was a decade too early. If she'd been in the 1980s, I think she would have had more chance. In the 1990s, much more chance. And that's what's happening in women's football today. And this is what I love about it. It's not just about sport. It's not just about artistry even. It is about authenticity and freedom. And this is a wonderful thing. We're getting 91,000 plus people 2 years ago at a Barcelona women's football game. Arsenal easily getting over 30,000 every week. This is existential freedom. Simone de Beauvoir was the partner of Jean-Paul Sartre, and she wrote a book about this.
And a few other people.
And well, she wasn't as bad as him, it has to be said.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's a very good point.
She wrote a book called The Second Sex, which was all about women and bad faith. And she would be delighted to see what's happening in women's football now. And if I could just tell you about this goal, Adam. There's a woman in Ireland called Stephanie Roach. 2013, we saw Maradona's goal of the century last year.
Unbelievable.
Okay, this is up
That's
there.
it was.
Stephanie Roach is playing for Peamount in Dublin in the Women's National League in Ireland in 2013, and she scores the most stupendous goal. It is in FIFA next year. FIFA had the best goal competition, and
Pushkas Award.
That's it. And she comes second. She loses out to it was James Rodriguez. Van Persie comes second.
Yeah,
Third, she comes second.
Yeah.
It is an unbelievable goal. It would have made Simone de Beauvoir weep salt tears to see this goal. And perhaps we should have a look at it.
Yeah, we should absolutely have a look at it. And actually, I'm sure you all remember James Rodriguez's goal where he receives the header on his chest, he spins, hits it, goes past the keeper. Try telling me that this goal isn't better than that one, because it absolutely is. So take it away, YouTube. What an unbelievable finish that is. The way she flicks it over the player and just have it.
Yeah.
Like, give it.
The wonderful thing about that is that was what wasn't filmed that game. It just happened to be someone in the crowd had a camera on, and so we've got that for. Because you could imagine after that game, people who saw it telling people, and everyone would be thinking, did she?
I believe it when I see it. Like,
pure shaking off the bad faith. Those girls have been told decades before that. Preston North End, incidentally, had a football team. It was founded in 1917 by an ammunitions company called Dick and Care Company, right? They were packing it in 50,000 people a game and massively getting great money.
I'm sorry, Dick and Care.
Dick and Care, yeah.
That's a name we can only have in 1917.
Dick and Care and Company were the commissary.
And Company.
And Company.
Wow, that's...
okay.
Dick was busy.
They're sponsoring the Preston North End team, and they are highly successful and highly well supported and raising great money for all kinds of good causes. The FA banned women's football in 1921, and that lasts till 1971. That's shocking, 50 years.
Yeah.
And during that time, I think girls were being told, well, the FA said it's inappropriate for girls to play football. So
what if you're pregnant? And it was all health concerns.
If you're pregnant, we've got to protect your breast, all kinds of nonsense. They just wanted the pictures back, and they also didn't like the idea that they were taking attention away from the men's game.
In a Boxing Day fixture in 1920, right? There was, I think it was 70,000 people at a game.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
Their concern is going to take over the men's game. That's what they're concerned about.
Yeah. So you can't just do that. You also have to kind of incorporate bad faith into that. So you tell girls, we're thinking about you. We're telling women you can't play football, and it's not. You've got your best interest in here. It's not appropriate. You're biologically not suited. So we're carrying. And also, then as the decades roll on in the 50s, 60s, and I saw it in the early 70s, you tell them that it's not pretty. It's not good for you. You're not very good at it anyway. You'll never be as good as a boy. And what's the point? And there's lots of other sports for girls. Gymnastics is a lovely sport.
Yeah, great.
Very big in the 1970s. I'm pretty. And the others, so why don't you do a pretty sport like gymnastics? I'm not taking anything from gymnastics here, by the way. I'm just saying, if you steer the girl who has real football talent to another one simply on the grounds, another sport on the grounds that is prettier and she's a girl and it's more appropriate, that's a wrong decision. It's bad faith. So if you want to learn about existentialism, read The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, read Being and Nothingness by Jean-Paul Sartre, and go to a women's football game.
I like that. I like that a lot. It actually reminds me, there was a girl at my school who was probably... I mean, I've got no buds about it, and she knows this, unless she's repressed it, but she was also my biggest crush at the time when I was in school.
She's been to therapy now, Adam. It's all gone.
And I remember writing in my planner, it was Adam fancies X, right? and I showed it to one of my friends. And he went, "You spelled fancies wrong." Anyway, and she was unbelievable, like technically so good, just so fast and just so good with the ball, like 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And we had a couple of lads who were kind of in the Lincoln City Centre of Excellence, and they were also really, really good players. But for my money, she was probably a bit better than them. And then unfortunately, in the end, I think she got trials for England back when she must have been year 10, 11, something like that, 15, 16. And it fell on the same day that she got tickets to go watch Shane Ward, the guy from Britain's Got Talent, or Pop Idol, or whatever it was at the
Tell
time.
me she made the right decision.
She decided to go watch the gig instead.
No!
But you see, this is the thing. Actually, it might fit in, because actually, in the end, she might have just thought, I'm never really gonna have a future in this. It's not a thing. It's not a thing that girls do. It's not appropriate for me. And actually, I'd much rather enjoy myself here and now, and
it's a quintessentially thing a girl of their age would be expected to do: go to a concert and scream at a man on the stage.
Yeah, who's really attractive.
Who's really attractive. That's much more appropriate to your sex than playing football. So we don't know what her motives were, but it would be tempting. It would be tempting to suggest that.
And actually, it's not just Sartre who talks about this kind of thing either. So even right now, and I'm kind of verging onto more. Kind of more controversial ground, if you like, when we talk about Judith Butler, and Judith Butler talks about this thing called gender performativity, and they suggest that actually what we tend, and this is going to be, I'm going to do this really poorly, right? But they basically say that we do the things that we think we ought to do. So men don't cry because that is what men do, and and men have the stiffer upper lip, and they just get on with things, and they bear all the burdens, and they take the bins out, and all these kinds of things. And girls are more emotional, and they wear nice dresses, and they do the housework, so that's kind of what you believe that you have to do. That is what society tells you to do, right? And so I imagine that Judith Butler is building upon the work of people of Simone, and that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. It is really interesting, and it's very liberating, and sort of satisfying to think that we are shaking it off. We are coming out of it, and it's comforting to know that. I hope we continue on this trajectory, because it's a good one. It's a good trajectory, and for one thing, better football comes from it.
Not only better football, but actually, in terms of England, the ladies only want anyone who can fucking win anything.
Well, there is that.
They're much more successful than the men, aren't they? Far more successful. I actually much more enjoy watching the ladies play than I do the men, because they actually win football matches. Anyway, on that note, we are going to stop talking about all this nonsense, and we're going to leave you all alone. But before that, I have two things to say. Firstly, just look how amazing Jack's t-shirt is.
Oh yeah,
Show
check it out.
t-shirt.
Everyone, my Existentialist football
look
t-shirt.
At that.
Yay.
And the back.
Oh
Show
yeah.
on the back as well. There it is, look. Sartre 10, the playmaker, the man in the... Oh no, I was going to make a joke about him being in the hole. That's where the 10 is. So the 10 plays in the hole.
Right.
And Sartre also probably played in a few holes. Anyway.
Absolutely no need for that.
No need for that at all. I apologise. And to another boy who'd like to play in a few holes, next week we're going to be talking about Lamine Yamal. And kind of boy wonders, and what happens when you've got the world at your feet and everything you touch seems to turn to gold. And how he currently has a recurring injury that is an inflamed pubic area. But enough of that. We'll talk about it next week. And so from here on in, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye.